had to find a way to pay a mortgage, to pay my bills. I just didn't know what I wanted to do.
Tell us about CRPS, that's the syndrome that you have. How does it affect you?
Complex regional pain syndrome. So it's a neurological condition that manifests itself primarily in chronic pain, but I've got lots of other neurological symptoms. So my muscles, my movement's not very good, sort of the signals don't quite get there. So it limits my ability to walk. When I was competing, it was really, really important to sort of try and stay off my feet as much as possible, because the more pain I'm in, the more difficult I'm going to find it.
Your retirement feels really kind of unfair and I guess like not right for the incredible career that you've had. So can you just talk us through what happened and how it all kind of panned out?
So every Paralympic athlete needs to go through a classification to determine whether their disability is severe enough. And I'd always passed this classification with flying colours. After London 2012, we knew that the classification was changing. They were trying to clarify the rules, but unfortunately, under the new rules, I failed. And that is how it's pitched and presented. So we were out in Thailand at the World Championships. At the end of the competition, people were going through the classification process. And I have to admit, it was the most harrowing and horrible experience of my career. You know, the classifiers were pulling and pushing me around. I was screaming in pain. But when they finished it all, I was in so much pain I couldn't walk. And they were like, why are you pretending to be paralysed? And I just felt that it took doctors 5 years to actually diagnose me with my condition. I thought that these classifiers didn't really understand what was going on. And my national governing body told me the next day that I'd failed, that was it, my career was over. As a result of that clarification, I think what's happened is many invisible conditions have unfortunately been cut from the programme, which is a big shame. You know, I do find it really tough because it helped me so much as a young person, coming to terms with having a disability and learning to live with it and learning to see my ability and what I could do. And I just think it is really, really tough that other young people with other invisible conditions like mine won't get that opportunity.
What did you do going forward and how did it affect you?
We decided to protest it, we decided to appeal it, and I was really lucky that the British Athletes Commission, they reached out to me. Ian Braid, who was the CEO, he's a brilliant mentor. I still stay in touch with him today. He actually had heard about my story and said, does she need help? And he was so helpful, sort of explaining the process, what we could do, and just also being there if I needed somebody to talk to, and understanding that, you know, that whole emotional process that you go through. We failed the appeal first time, and then the second time we pushed it again because I kind of made it a little bit worse. So they decided that not only did I not get through, but people with my condition were no longer eligible for the Paralympics, and I was just like, it was just heartbreaking. We went for the final appeal. We didn't actually hear right till the last minute when they had to provide an answer that no, the decision was final, it stood. When you leave sport, it's not like leaving a job. You don't get a severance package. You're given your funding for about 4 months and that's it. I didn't know who I wanted to be. I didn't even know who I was. It felt like I'd been dumped in the middle of the ocean. It impacted me in so many ways because I had that identity as an athlete, but I also had that identity as a disabled person, and to be told that you weren't disabled enough, that was also really hard. The whole identity builds around the sport, and especially when you start winning and you start doing well, you get identified around that success. And to fail, how it's pitched is failing, to fail so epically, I found it really hard. And then you worry about people thinking, oh, no wonder she won so much, she wasn't as disabled as everybody else, which, you know, wasn't true.
Where did you go from then?
I set up my own business around that, and because I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I thought through sport I'd learned so many different skills, and I just thought maybe I can teach this to other people. I'm really passionate, and so still am, about young people. I think you know, growing up, I really struggle with things like my confidence, because I think having a disability, that completely fractured my confidence growing up. And I just thought, people don't teach you how to build it. Sport taught me that. So I thought maybe I can jump in and do that. But during the pandemic, events caved, and I was also looking for something. I was in the right space of mind at that point. And an athlete career transition organisation, ACT, they reached out to me and said, hey, we've seen your LinkedIn profile. We think you'd be perfect for an organisation. And they match athletes or former athletes with organisations based on the transferable skills. I got matched with a company called Equinix, and it's just the most amazing company. The culture is fantastic.
What you spoke about is actually just really traumatic and probably quite triggering to think about. And then you think about your whole kind of career and journey in life. How do you feel about it now?
I think that it was really tough, and I think that at times it probably wasn't dealt with as well as it could have been, particularly in terms of the support that was available. I think that is starting to get better now, and I think we are seeing a shift in the right way. I certainly felt that as soon as I stopped being useful to the national governing body, that was it. They didn't want to know. I was just sort of thrown out. You're disposable, and that felt awful, because you've produced so many medals, you've won, you've helped them secure funding, you've helped people stay in jobs, and then once you're going through a tough time, you weren't given that help that you really needed at that moment. But I do think that this is starting to be recognised, that actually that shift away from sport is difficult. Even if it is your choice, even if you have planned for it, athletes can really struggle to adapt. So I do think we've got a long way to go, but I think we are moving in the right direction. We can only sort of keep talking about it and having those conversations, because it's important to share those experiences. I think when we're making decisions, having that lived experience, that voice of the athlete is really important, and bringing them all together.
Looking back at your kind of reclassification and those 2 days essentially, and everything that happened after it, how would you have liked World Archery, who sent the classifiers, and then Archery GB to have handled things differently, and how would you kind of expect them to handle things now?
I was really quite bitter, I think, at the time, particularly with how it'd been treated, and I think sometimes you do forget that they are people as well, and it was a new experience for them. But I think that there were some really simple things they could have done, and that was effectively treating you like a human being, and remembering that it is a person that's right at the middle of it. And I think that, just taking that person first approach, I think is a lot more beneficial for everybody. But I think that we should be preparing athletes to leave the system for that independence as soon as they go into sport.